Good morning. Welcome to the Community Voice. I'm Steve Graddick, your host. It's a beautiful Monday in West Georgia, and we're delighted that you're listening. We're grateful for that. You can tune us in on a multitude of ways. 1330 on the AM dial, 106.3 on the FM dial. To the TuneIn app, I'll go to our website, graddickcommunications.com, click on the live stream, and you can go to News Talk 1330 Facebook Live. All of these multitude of ways just so that you can see and hear State Senator Bill Heath. Good morning, Bill.
Good morning, Steve.
Got the voice. He's going. We're good. We're honored to have Bill Heath in studio. Senator Bill Heath serves the 31st District, the great state of Georgia. He's chairman of the Government Oversight Committee. He's a member of the Agriculture and Consumer Affairs Finance Committee. He's a member of the National Natural Resources and Environment Committee. He ex officio member of the Transportation Committee. And how about that? Pretty good, huh? All right. You are also well known, or at least in some circles, for being formerly the governor's floor leader.
Been there and done that.
Been there, and of course, you being, former farmer into agriculture, also an engineer. What do you think about Sonny Perdue being now on the cabinet of the U.S. government? Not a bad gig.
It's not. I think he's going to do a great job. He is a very knowledgeable, intelligent guy. Certainly knows agriculture and knows business, and he's going to do a great job. He's got a lot of the same characteristics as President Trump, so I think he fits in.
Well, how did they find Sonny, or do you know?
I don't really know how all that takes place, but I know Senator Perdue was a huge supporter and advocate for.
Follow the Perdue name. Yeah.
Perhaps. But he's, it's really good for Georgia. We got Zippy Duval, former president of the Georgia Farm Bureau, who's now at American Farm Bureau. Sonny Perdue is the agriculture secretary. Tom Price is the whatever he is, the medical guru. So I mean, Georgia seems to be an important place
and
now.
Clarence Thomas on the Supreme Court.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it's almost like the Carter years when we had Burt Lance and the rest of them. Just a little bit different.
It's a little bit different.
It's a little bit different. Well, speaking of times past, when I came to West Georgia full time in 1987, there were 6 million Georgians, and the state budget was $4.8 billion. Well, it's 2017. There are 10 plus million Georgias, and the state budget is $25 billion. So that's about not yet a twofold increase in population, but yet a fivefold increase in the size of the budget. So, as a taxpayer, are we getting our money's worth? And how do you interpret those numbers?
Steve, that's a very difficult area for me. I see the same thing that you're seeing. I mean, as I was sitting there listening to you recite those numbers, I'm thinking, okay, so we got 2.5 times as many people and 5 times as big a budget. So we're at least paying double if you want to look at it that way. There seems to be this incessant appetite with politicians to spend more money and to gain more favor with the people, and it certainly feels like the taxpayer gets left out of the picture.
It's more like, what are the wants rather than what are the needs?
I mean, isn't that sort of the mindset of the people today? It's an instant gratification. It's all about me right now. We don't see people saving a lot of money. They seem to be living for the day.
Well, one thing I've observed is when people run for office, they have all the good intents and real good perspective, but after they get in a while, if something seems like a good idea and there might be money to pay for it, or you can raise taxes to pay for it, they say, well, why not?
Yeah, and Steve, honestly, the taxpayers, and I mean, I hear from a lot of folks that grumble about the tax burden, and I'm certainly sympathetic to that. But what you really hear from are the people who are looking for a handout from government. And if you ever hint of cutting back on something, then all these people come out. And so, you know, the nature of the game is you got to get elected to be a participant. And so the politics side of things is you're trying to keep at least half the people happy, at least during election time. And when you get there with the rest of the folks, I mean, it honestly is a different world than it is when you're out here.
So why are you fool with it? Why do you do it?
I don't know, Steve. It's I never served in the military, and God's been good to me. This community has been good to me. I mean, I'm not a rich guy. I feel successful. I've had most of my wants, and so when I got involved, it was kind of some of those same type feelings. I wanted to serve, and now it's like somebody's got to be down there fighting for the people,
right? Protecting it.
And it's not to say that everybody in government or politics is evil and don't care about the people, but it is an honor to be able to serve, and it's, to a certain extent, it is fun to be, or it's gratifying to be able to work for a better Georgia and a better America and a better community.
Well, along those same lines, I mentioned in 1987, 6 million Georgians, and today there are 10 plus million Georgians, but currently Georgia is made up of approximately 6 plus million, or about 6 million people in metro Atlanta, which leaves 4 or so million for the rest of the state. So do we currently have two Georgias? One, i.e. metro Atlanta, and the other one, the rural rest of the state?
I get accused of not being a black and white guy.
So you're
I'm accused of being able to see all the gray areas.
Okay.
So
you don't see it
I don't
that way.
see it as two Georgias, but I will tell you, there's a huge difference between a Senate district in the Atlanta metro area and a Senate district from rural Georgia. And certainly the guys in South Georgia do not call Haralson and Carroll County rural Georgia. I'll admit that we're not rural like South Georgia, but we're very rural compared to Atlanta.
So they think we're metro.
They want to. They from their perspective, yes.
But we're on the edge of metro.
But where I represent 2 counties and part of a 3rd county,
yeah.
Some of those guys, senators in South Georgia, is representing 10 counties,
right?
And so we're supposed to be representing the same number of people, but the population growth is much greater in the Atlanta area, and so towards the end of a 10-year period, when we do the census and readjust the legislative districts, the metro area districts represent a higher percentage than the
I guess what I'm dancing around, though, is metro Atlanta, generally speaking, is politically, culturally, and in many ways is different than the rest of the state.
Very different.
And are we as a state basically going to get overrun by the phenomenon of metro Atlanta, i.e., Haralson,
yes.
Carroll County, is urban sprawl and the metro?
I mean,
metroism?
a lot of the problems or issues that we face, the problems that we have to tackle out here are a result of this growth of population. That's people moving out of the Atlanta area looking for a little more breathing space, and this is where they come.
You serve, your district includes, and I didn't mention this at the open, I should, all of Haralson, all of Polk, and a portion of Paulding. So you see it in Paulding County, so you know what we're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, Haralson and Polk have a lot more in common than Haralson or Paulding or Polk.
And Paulding. Yeah.
I mean, Paulding is Paulding is the metro area for Senate District 31.
Right. Okay, we've got a lot more, and we want to get to all of it as best we can with State Senator Bill Heath of the 31st District after this word from Tanner Health System.
Need help finding something healthy to eat? Tanner Health System has an app for that. Minuit helps you find healthy food options on the go. The smartphone app is powered by Tanner's health experts, who teamed up with restaurants across West Georgia to make it easier for you to choose healthy food and eat better. Minuit acts like your personal nutrition assistant, showing you the healthiest items on the menu. So when you're not sure what's good to eat, Minuit. You can even use the app to look up recipes and plan healthy meals at home, and modify your options based on nutritional preferences, such as a low sodium or vegetarian diet. Minuit and Tanner Health System, making it easier to eat healthy and live well. A healthier lifestyle is only a fingertip away. Minuit is free to download on your Apple or Android smartphone. You can download it today by searching Minuit in the App Store or on Google Play. Learn more about Minuit at gethealthylivewell.org.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Community Voice. I'm Steve Pettit, your host. Delighted to have you with us. We're having a good time with State Senator Bill Heath, who serves Harrelson, Polk, and a portion of Paulding County with the 31st Senate District. I've been there with Bill since the beginning of his political career. I've enjoyed every moment of it. How about that?
Yeah, I hear you.
I hear you. All right, let's stay on the budget for a minute longer. And we got a $25 million or so budget, and 40% of it is spent on education from the pre-K through the K-12. And then another 11.7% is spent with the university system, correct? So basically 51.7% of the budget goes to education. So kind of like on the beginning of the program, are the taxpayers getting their money's worth? Don't hesitate on me.
A good friend of ours says where you stand depends on where you sit. So, you know, there are those who think we're getting a great bargain. There's certainly a lot of parents and business people who are not as excited about where Georgia ranks when you look at the comparisons of Georgia versus other states, and there's a lot of debate about how you actually measure performance or achievement. But I feel like we should be getting more for our money. I mean, it's a huge part of our budget, and it is certainly important. It's important for economic development. It's important. You look at the statistics about where you will be in your life depending on how much education you've gotten, and there's probably nothing more important than education. I think that the legislature would say that's why we spend over 50% of our money on it.
Right.
But I think there's a lot of room for improvement.
Where would be a couple of areas that you'd like to see?
Steve, I'm not an education guru. I'm not sure what the solutions are. From my background as an engineer, you know, I like to look at the numbers. I want to be able to measure things, and measuring performance in education is very difficult because you're building a product that takes 12, 13 years to complete and to actually see the finished product. So I'm not sure what the solutions are. I don't think more money is fixing it.
Well, you mentioned the Board of Regents. From what I understand, they get like $2 billion or whatever.
The Board of Regents is like this own little country.
That's what I was getting to. Country club?
I didn't say country club.
I said country club, but you said country. So
yeah, I mean, they don't answer to anybody.
Well, why don't y'all change that? You give them the money. I don't understand why, whether it's Congress or when you've got the power of the purse, why don't you use it? You know what I mean?
Well, and you caught me a little bit off guard, but
okay.
It's sort of a constitutional issue.
Is it really? Okay. Well, I didn't know that.
I think in order to kind of get a better grip on the Board of Regents, probably would require a constitutional amendment, which, no problem with that, other than it takes 2/3 of the legislature and 50% of the people to affect that change.
There are a couple of things, and I don't know how familiar you really are with some of this, but I read about different things like with the quote-unquote community colleges or the technical college system of Georgia. We have Move On When Ready. And there's some states that are doing like a 13th grade, whereby students can kind of stay in high school and then go to a community college and get a real deal on that. No allusion to the governor. But anyway, are you familiar with any of those kind of things? And do you have kind of
a little bit? But I mean, when I hear those kind of comments, it almost makes me sick. So many of our children or students are going into college, and the first thing they take are remedial courses.
Right.
That tells me the K-12 system's not doing their job. I feel like that we ought to have a pathway when a student is achieving that they don't spend 180 days in the first grade, for example. Mm-hmm. When you've accomplished all that's set forth for a first grader, you ought to be able to move on into second grade materials, and because people do learn at different rates. And so our system is set up to handle the lowest performing. Mm-hmm. And we punish those who can really achieve and have the whatever the magic that allows them to achieve and to learn faster and with greater depth. And so, it's just really discouraging when you talk 13 years of.
Well, whether there's some.
Why don't we teach them what we need to teach them in 12 years? The old folks around, our seniors that talk about, I got an 8th grade education. You look at them and they're doing well. We've got a lot of them out there with 12th grade education that can't balance a checkbook or even know what a checkbook is.
And we got some college students similarly.
Okay.
But but it's almost as if we as a society are almost creating a perpetual adolescence for our young people, that exactly. they stay on insurance till 26, they live in the basement till 30,
And when do they get a job?
When they finally end up coming to me and go, I can't get a job anywhere else.
So you make a radio guy out of them. Is that how you got here?
Yeah, that's exactly how I got here. But that's just another program right there.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've got to challenge and encourage these young folks. I mean, I know they've got the capability of doing it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. All right, let's shift gears. We mentioned the university system. So one thing you've been a proponent for a while, which apparently made it through the governor this year, didn't make it through last year, which was referred to as campus carry, allowing students of age on college campuses in the state to carry a firearm. Where are we on that? Because this year, in order to get the governor to sign it, which he did, it had a lot of his restrictions and criteria that he wanted last year, correct?
That's true. I think he got beat up quite a bit for his veto last year, and he maybe was a little bit more willing to talk about it this year. There were a lot of restrictions. I guess I kind of understand some of the athletic events. Those sometimes get a little emotional, and sometimes there's things going on there that might not be the best environment.
Sure.
For handguns or guns. I have always been an advocate for being able to defend yourself, and
I given right.
Yeah, it's certainly a right. So yes, there were some restrictions. I don't understand really the issues about child care, for example. I mean, it's not like that you're issuing guns to children in a daycare environment. Those adults that are working there ought to be able to defend themselves and the children. The restriction on the dormitories, I think that just creates problems. I mean, if there's going to be an accident with a gun, it's when it's being handled. as long as you've got a gun, a handgun is what I'm assuming. That I can't imagine anyone wanting to carry a long gun around with them all the time. So a handgun that's in a holster, it just doesn't misfire. There's no accidents. And
You think next year you or like-minded legislators will work to kind of reduce or remove some of those restrictions? Yeah, okay. Let me ask you about another topic. Of course, we all suffered through the collapse of the bridge on I-85. Of course, that was a man-caused phenomenon. But where are we in terms of the transportation and the infrastructure around the state? We hear a lot about, and we got the work going on I-20 now in Bremen or east of Bremen. Where do you see transportation and infrastructure currently around the state?
Steve, in my opinion, our transportation infrastructure has not been maintained as well as it should have been. I really believe that over time, a roadway, for example, will only bear so much until it's kind of got to be disassembled and reassembled. And those are major projects. It's a major disruption to traffic, and they're very expensive. And so I feel like the state has not addressed those major renovation projects as far as transportation. And while I oppose the massive tax increase, House Bill 170, we are seeing more projects being let now, and it's exactly what you would expect to see with the government with tons of money. I mean, they're gonna spend it.
Well, now I understand that particular tax, when we're talking about the gasoline tax, correct?
Yes.
Is now, this past session, y'all made it somewhat permanent, or it became more of a permanent entity?
I think you're right on that. And I mean, what would you expect the legislature to do?
But the counter to that, or from what I've heard, is that it's not a bad thing, because if gas goes up back to $4 or $5 an hour or a gallon, then it's locked in. I think it's 23 cents or
it's
something.
It's locked in only to the extent that the
legislature
doesn't get an appetite to increase it again. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was a huge, I forget the numbers now. At the time we passed it, it was a 60 or 70% increase. And if the price of oil had not have really dropped off, people would be going through the roof. The only thing that saved many legislators was the fact that the oil prices went down and the gasoline prices went down, and you didn't feel it.
Our guest this morning is State Senator Bill Heath of the 31st District of the great state of Georgia. We got a whole lot more, but not a whole lot of many minutes left, but we're going to take a shot at it after this word from Tanner Health System.
In sports, when you play to win, you get your game on. Shouldn't the same be true when it comes to your health? At Tanner Health System, we're going to help you get your healthy on. Tanner is leading the way for you to eat better, get fit, manage or prevent diabetes, and live tobacco-free, so you and your family can get your healthy on every day. It all starts at gethealthylivewell.org. Check out upcoming healthy living events and join others in the community taking action to live well every day. GetHealthyLiveWell.org. Tanner Health System's way of helping you get your healthy on.
Need motivation and support to eat healthier, become more physically active, or quit tobacco? Tanner offers free classes to help you get your healthy on. Register today by calling 770-214-CARE. That's 770-214-CARE. Learn more at gethealthylivewell.org.
Good morning. Welcome back to Community Voice. I'm Steve Graddick, your host. Delighted to have you with us. We've got State Senator Bill Heath in studio. We're honored to have him with us, and just thank you for coming in. One thing, and we won't spend a whole lot of time on this, but State Senator Josh McCoon pushed, I think, last session to have every amendment to every bill be a recorded vote, and that didn't happen. But I think if one person asks for a recorded vote, then y'all have to do it in terms of amendments. Is all that correct?
One person has to ask for it. 5 have to
agree
to
to
do it, and then that process goes pretty fast. The standard procedure in the Senate on a recorded vote is just a 60-second window to vote, and there are ways that we can do it. In fact, we've done some time studies and looking at how long it takes to vote using the machine, a 60-second vote versus a hand vote, and it's not but just a tad faster to do a hand vote. And certainly the people of Georgia would like to know how we vote on these amendments. And if you're not watching the video and just happen to catch your senator's hand in the air, you don't know how they voted. And if you can honestly, you're not on a hand vote. You're not restricted to being right at your desk. So you might be standing along the wall or at someone else's desk and cast a hand vote.
So it sounds like you and mine having a recorded vote.
I think the people deserve to know how their legislator votes, and I think they deserve to have a legislator that's there to vote on every issue that comes before them.
Yeah, but at the last day or two of the session, y'all are like pushed. So isn't that problematic?
We're only pushed because it's by design, Steve.
Whoa. Okay, I'm going to quote you on that if that's okay. We've only got 2 or 3 minutes left, so let's kind of hit these kind of quickly if we can. I think Religious Freedom Restoration Act is in committee. You think it'll come out next year?
I
don't know.
Unfortunately, our Senate leader has pushed back on that, and we were right to the point where we could have voted on it, and the leadership moved to table that bill and put it off. But there are certainly a number of us that would like very much to get something along those lines.
U.S. Congress having a difficult time repealing Obamacare. How's that going to impact the state if they ever get around to it?
Who knows? Health care is certainly an important issue and very expensive.
Okay, but something's got to be done.
Yeah, what probably happens is federal government will do something that will lower their expense. It won't send that money to Georgia to help with however we do it. And truthfully, people need to be responsible for their own health care.
Right. With only about a minute or so left, we witnessed the third terrorist attack in London, in England, in the last 3 months. There have been 33 attacks in 8 European countries this year. How safe is Georgia, with in mind that we have Hartsfield and we have the port system from terrorist attacks, do you think?
I think it would be foolish to feel safe, to feel like there would not be any the opportunity for a terrorist attack. And Steve, by definition, that they are looking for targets that cause terror, and if you're out in the middle of nowhere, nobody cares if you get bombed or your water supply is interrupted. But if you're in a metro area or a high population area, it makes the news, and that's the kind of places that they're looking for. And it's a very difficult balance to try to defend our liberties and the life that Americans have come to enjoy, and protect yourself against acts of terrorism.
Our guest this morning has been State Senator Bill Heath of the 31st District. Senator Heath, thank you so much for coming in.
My pleasure.
And we hope we'll do this real soon. And we thank you for listening. Go out and make it a great day. You're in tune to WLBB Carrollton.